Today we're going to be making soda bread. Soda bread is a nice simple type of bread to make. It doesn't require using yeast. When you use yeast in bread you have to spend quite a lot of time proving it, waiting for it to rise. We're not going to be doing any of that. We're going to make it much less complicated and use something called bicarbonate of soda. And we're also going to be using buttermilk. And when these two ingredients combine, they enable the dough to rise. It's a much quicker bread, so let's start. First of all, ingredients wise, what we need is flour. We need 340 grams of flour. You can use any kind of flour you like really. I quite like to make a mix, so I will make half of one type and half of another. It doesn't have to be self-raising, it can be plain flour. You can use bread flour, you can use granary flour, so I've got a combination here of flours that you might want to use. I've got some granary bread flour, and I think I'm going to use some of that in this recipe. I also have some brown rice flour. If you are gluten-free, that's really good. You can also use another type of gluten-free flour which is more freely available in the shops. It's the Dove's brand. Or you can use spelt flour. So I think I'm going to choose half of the granary flour and half of a strong white bread flour as well. So a combination of the two. So alongside the flour we also need, as I said before, the bicarbonate of soda. Also a little bit of salt, a tiny bit of honey to sweeten the bread, and then you can also put in any kind of herbs and spices that you like. So I think on this occasion I'm going to put in some oregano. And the last ingredient of course is the buttermilk. So let's begin. So what we need to do now is to put the oven on. I have already put the oven on at gas mark 6, or if you're using an electric oven then you can use it at 200 degrees centigrade. So preheat the oven. The utensils I'm going to be using, the kitchen tools, is first of all a bowl to do the mixing. I also need a spoon measure. This is a half a teaspoon measure, which is very useful. I need a fork to mix the dough. I do need a knife. I'll show you why I need that later. I need a weighing scale and a bowl to measure my ingredients out. And I also need a baking tray, which I have just cut out a piece of baking paper and put it on the top, so it's easier to lift the bread off once it's ready. I've calibrated the weighing scale to 0 with the bowl on top. Always important to do that first. And I'm going to weigh my first flour. So this is the granary bread flour, and I want to put in half of 340 grams, which is 170. I'm going to do half, but really it doesn't really matter. You can just do any combination you like, because I know it's difficult to get flour at the moment, so just use whatever you have available. So that's 170 grams there. And I'm also going to add 170 of strong white bread flour. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's self-raising or plain. I think plain is probably adequate. But just use whatever you can. I found that it doesn't really make that much of a difference in the quality of the bread that you get. So we're almost at 340. Yeah, that's it. And to that I'm going to add the bicarbonate of soda. And then I need, remind myself, a half a teaspoon. So this is a half a teaspoon measure. If you don't have one of these are very useful because you can be very accurate. Otherwise just use a regular teaspoon and take half of it. So that's going in. and also around a half a teaspoon of salt. You know, that's very much sort of personal taste really. And that can go in. And then I'm just going to combine that all together. And at this stage, it will be much easier for me to transfer into a bigger bowl. So I'm going to put all of that into a larger bowl. So that's my flour mixed together. And to that I'm going to add just a squeeze of honey. That's fine. And some oregano, but you can use any herbs you like. If you like thyme, thyme's a nice one that can go in as well. I don't usually measure, to be honest, I just usually throw in whatever I fancy. So that's about a teaspoon of herbs. Give that another little mix. And the only thing left that goes into this bread mixture now is buttermilk. The next ingredient to put in is buttermilk. Now buttermilk is really easy to find in the local supermarkets, any supermarkets, and it usually comes in this kind of size, which is 284 mils, which is just about perfect because the recipe requires 290, so that's fine. And you just pour all of that buttermilk, and you see the texture of it, it's quite sort of lumpy. That's the way it's supposed to be. You can use a spoon to scrape out all the bits that are left in the bottom. And then what you want to do next is literally just stir that buttermilk in to the flour and the bicarb. And once you've stirred it all in, I mean, that's it, the actual dough. It's that easy. I mean, that must have taken us 5 minutes. And it's not very long in the oven either, it's just about half an hour in the oven. Now if you find, like I'm possibly finding here, that the mixture doesn't look quite as wet as I would like it, what I might do is add a tiny bit of milk into the mixture as well. So I'm just going to leave you for 1 second and get some milk. So I have the milk in just in case I need it. But in the meantime, I also need a board, a wooden chopping board. It doesn't have to be wooden, just the chopping board, which I forgot to mention earlier. And I'm just going to add a little bit of flour onto the surface of that board. And then I'm going to pick up all of this dough. Now this is when you do a little bit, the tiniest bit of kneading, really not much more than this. What you're just trying to do is you're just trying to gather all of that dough up into a ball, and as you're gathering it up, you're picking up all the stray bits of flour that are on the bottom of the mixing bowl. And in fact, I don't think I'm going to need that milk. I think that was probably okay. Can you see? The dough has come away, all the flour has come away from the bowl, just through just moving it around, dabbing it all up, and then transfer it to my board. Yeah, I don't need any more milk. That's really good. I mean, look at the size of it. It's absolutely weeny at the moment. And I'm just going to knead it just a little bit, just to bring it nicely together. And I've got some bits sticking to my fingers, so I'll just peel those off. I don't want to waste any. And you don't want to knead it too much. This isn't the kind of dough that you kind of stretch. You just want to do that to it. That is it. And you just use the kind of like the edges of the palms of your hands to move it around and bring it into a little fat circle. And then give it a little pat on the top so it's a bit more tiny bit flatter, and then I'll show you what to do next once I've cleaned my hands. So the next thing we need to do is, this is where the knife comes in. Remember I mentioned the knife at the beginning, and the reason that we have the knife is to do what we call scoring the bread. Now what that does is allow the bread to rise. So you want to take a sharp knife. If you're not confident using a knife by yourself, please ask somebody to help you. You can use a smaller knife as well if you want to. And you just want to make quite a deep cut, going all the way through the dough. It doesn't have to go all the way through to the bottom, just about halfway. And then through the other way as well, so you've got a cross. And this is really important to do that, otherwise the dough won't rise. It won't allow the air to escape. Okay, if you're happy with that, and that is pretty much it. What you can also do, if you wanted to, you can also sprinkle some seeds on the bread, and that would be really nice too. Some people brush their bread with egg to make it a little bit glossy. Some people also dust it with flour to make it a little bit crustier. So you can do all of those things if you want to. I'm just going to do what we've just done so far, transfer it onto my baking sheet, and then that's going to go in the oven. I'm going to wait 30 minutes, and then I'll show you the finished product. And trust me when I say that, it will look far better than it does at the moment. Here's the bread, it's out of the oven. As you can see, it looks really quite different to how it did when it went in. It's beautifully brown and golden. It's very hot actually, so be careful if you're handling it. And just to make sure you test that it's done, you can flip it over. See the bottom of it is nice and brown as well. You can tap it, it's nice and hard. So that is your soda bread, and you can see now how easy it is. It literally took us I don't think it was even 30 minutes, I think it was 25. So you do need to keep on checking the oven, you know, after about 20 minutes, have a little look and see how brown it's got. This is really nice and brown, so you might not like it this brown, it's up to you. So you can, once this is nice and cool, you can slice it up, you can just break a chunk off and have it with some soup and some butter, whatever you fancy. But there we are, we have made soda bread.